some of those performances with him, you had blood in your mouth when you were singing?
It was the first time I experienced it when I had a nose problem, and I didn't know. I'd never had a broken nose before. It was cracked there or something, and
from one of the beatings?
Yeah, this was one before a show, and one of those things in the dressing room.
She once escaped a violent marriage with nothing but a blood-stained suit and 36 cents in her pocket. And years later, she was lounging in a Swiss estate with a "No deliveries before noon" sign on the gate. Tina Turner's life wasn't just dramatic, it was seismic. From harrowing heartbreaks to rock and roll triumphs, she didn't just survive, she reinvented herself again and again. Here's something fun to kick us off. After a Las Vegas show, which legendary entertainer surprised Tina with a white Jaguar XJ6? Drop your guess in the comments. We'll reveal it later in the video. Stay tuned for the story behind her $76 million lakefront estate and the truth about how David Bowie helped save her career behind closed doors. But to truly understand the woman the world came to know as Tina Turner, we need to rewind to a childhood filled with twists and turns that shaped everything to come. The childhood that shaped a fighter. Nutbush, Tennessee in the 1940s was all cotton fields, church choirs, and quiet, dusty roads, a place where the radio crackled with blues and gospel, and kids made their own fun barefoot in the yard. That's where Anna Mae Bullock, who the world would one day know as Tina Turner, grew up. But for all the charm of the South, her childhood was anything but sweet. Born in 1939 to sharecropper parents already unraveling at the seams, Tina's early life was marked by chaos and abandonment. In 1950, when Tina was just 11, her mother left suddenly to escape her abusive marriage. 2 years later, her father followed suit, remarrying and moving to Detroit. Tina and her sisters were left behind to be raised by their grandmother, Gigi, a woman she later credited with saving her life. Gigi offered the only consistent love Tina knew during those years, and her small farmhouse became a refuge. Tina was a tomboy with scraped knees and endless energy. She'd put on pretend shows from the branches of her favorite tree, tearing up my clothes and messing up my hair as she sang and danced for an imaginary audience. She sang in the local Baptist church choir and soaked up every bit of music she could, from Delta blues to country swing. That small town couldn't contain her spirit. By her teens, she was working as a domestic cleaner, attending Sumner High in St. Louis, and trying to process the trauma of losing her half-sister Evelyn in a car accident. Music became more than a passion. It became her escape hatch. And soon, she'd find a stage that could barely contain her fire. Still, for all the heartbreak and humble beginnings, Tina's real rise wouldn't begin until she stepped into the smoky rooms of Club Manhattan and locked eyes with a man named Ike Turner. The comeback written in blood and gold. Tina Turner's rise to stardom wasn't a straight climb. It was a roller coaster set to the beat of survival. After years of being that spirited girl belting songs from tree branches in Nutbush, her big break came at Club Manhattan in St. Louis in 1956. She convinced bandleader Ike Turner to let her sing with the Kings of Rhythm. From that moment, Tina, then known as Little Ann, lit a fuse that couldn't be put out. By the 1960s, the Ike and Tina Turner Revue was one of the hottest live acts in America. Their shows were electric, raw, and unforgettable. But behind the glitter and spotlight was a brutal truth. Ike was abusive, possessive, and violent. Tina endured beatings, manipulation, and emotional torment for over a decade. The world saw sequins and stage kicks. She lived through bruises and silence. Everything shifted on July 4th, 1976. Bloodied and desperate, Tina fled their Dallas hotel with 36 cents and a mobile gas card. That night became legend, her wedding suit stained with blood, her identity hanging by a thread. In their divorce, all she asked for was the right to keep the name Tina Turner. "I earned it," she said. And she had. What followed was a humbling fall. Tina scraped by, cleaning houses, performing in Vegas lounges, even relying on food stamps. But her will, unshakable. In 1983, David Bowie changed everything. Skipping a dinner with record execs, he insisted they watch her perform. They did, and she landed a new deal on the spot. Then came Private Dancer in 1984. What's Love Got to Do with It won 3 Grammys. The comeback was complete. Tina wasn't just back, she was bigger than ever, and this time she wasn't sharing the spotlight with anyone. Nonetheless, what made Tina's story so unforgettable wasn't just her career. It was how she lived when the lights went down. So sit back as we dive into the lifestyle insights of her private life. The Night Owl in a Castle. By the time Tina Turner settled in Switzerland, she'd traded the pounding rhythms of stadium tours for something far simpler: silence. At her estate in Küsnacht, nestled along Lake Zurich, she lived a life defined by stillness and space. A small sign at the gate read, "No deliveries before noon, we're still sleeping," a far cry from the relentless early mornings of tour life. Tina once laughed that she was a true Nachtule, a night owl to the core. Years of performing late into the night rewired her rhythms, and in Switzerland, she finally had the luxury to honor them. She stayed up late, slept in, and guarded her mornings like a sacred ritual. Even journalists were warned, don't knock early. That sense of protected peace was the opposite of the chaos she once escaped, and exactly what she needed to feel safe. Chants, chairs, and Christmas trees. Tina's sanctuary wasn't just about comfort, it was about healing. After surviving Ike's abuse, she found profound strength in Nichiren Buddhism. Chanting became a daily practice. It gave her back her voice in a way singing never could. She often credited her spiritual practice for helping her transform suffering into serenity. It was this inner stillness that later inspired her to record spiritual music with the group Beyond and publish Happiness Becomes You in 2020. A book filled with wisdom from a life hard-lived and hard-won. But Tina's softer side didn't stop at meditation. She adored the holidays, so much so that she'd start decorating her home for Christmas in early November. She embraced tradition with a childlike glee, adorning her home in thousands of lights and florals. It was a cozy contrast to the sequined diva image the public had long adored. Salt, soul, and simplicity. Despite her glam status, Tina was refreshingly unpretentious. She loved food with flavor, spice, salt, richness. "A dash of salt never hurt anyone," she quipped. Her meals were never fussy, and she wasn't one to diet for image's sake. Happiness, she believed, was the real beauty secret, and you could see it in her radiant skin and soulful smile. Her skincare routine? Cleanse, moisturize, and stay joyful. She wasn't interested in excess for the sake of it. When she saw a piece of antique furniture or art she liked, she bought it. No measurements, no plan. "Eventually I'll find a place for it," she'd say. Her homes, particularly Chateau Algonquin, were filled with elegant, carefully collected pieces that gave them character, not just wealth. Offline and unbothered. Though Tina kept up with the times, she did so on her terms. She adopted tech selectively, only using innovations that made her life easier. In one rare interview, she endorsed the Swiss mobile app IO, praising its simplicity and privacy. She let her husband, Erwin, help her navigate modern gadgets, but stayed off social media and rarely interacted online. For her, privacy wasn't just a preference, it was a hard-earned right. In public, she kept a low profile. One of her favorite tricks? Speaking only Swiss German in shops so locals wouldn't recognize her. She joked that being quiet and blending in was her secret weapon. Imagine that, a global icon walking through Zurich unnoticed simply because she chose silence. From giving back to living fully. Tina's later years were also about impact. As mentioned earlier, she used her story to speak out against domestic violence and worked with organizations to empower survivors. She didn't just live for luxury. She lived to ensure others could live free. Even her musical, Tina. The musical, which she initially resisted, was something she later embraced when she realized it gave others hope. Letters from fans convinced her that her pain had purpose, and of course there were the surprises. Like that one time Sammy Davis Jr. gifted her a white Jaguar just for being an incredible performer. There's the answer to our quiz question, revealed at last. Tina never forgot that gift. "A gift like that stays with you," she said, and so did the memory of earning the kind of respect that made legends like Davis want to celebrate her. Nevertheless, the glamour and growth only tell half the story, because behind Tina's reinvention was a heart marked by deep love, tragic loss, and unforgettable bonds that shaped her most human moments. The loves that healed and hurt. Tina Turner's relationships were as defining as her voice, filled with heartbreak, healing, and unexpected allies. Her early years with Ike Turner, as covered earlier, were marked by violence and fear. But even after escaping the chaos, love didn't come easy. Tina once admitted that she wasn't sure she even believed in true love until she met Erwin Bach. They crossed paths in 1985 at a German airport. She was already a global superstar. He was a young music executive 16 years her junior. But the connection was instant. What followed was a quiet, steadfast partnership that stretched over 3 decades. In 2013, they married in a rose-covered ceremony at their Swiss home. And in 2017, Erwin gave Tina a gift beyond measure, a life-saving kidney. "He showed me I could be loved without pain," she said. Her relationships with her children were more complex. Her eldest son, Craig, died by suicide in 2018, a loss Tina called her saddest moment as a mother. Her son, Ronnie, with Ike, passed in 2022 from cancer. Though she raised Ike's other children as her own, estrangement grew in later years, leaving those bonds bittersweet. Still, Tina's life was full of legendary friendships. Cher gave her a platform when no one else would. David Bowie skipped a board dinner to get her a record deal. Oprah adored her. Mick Jagger? Tina once teased that she had a little crush. These weren't just industry relationships. They were deep, mutual respect. Tina's life was stitched together by love in all its forms, messy, redemptive, and sacred. Yet while those emotional ties grounded her, Tina was also building something else entirely behind the scenes. A financial legacy as bold and strategic as her stage presence. The money behind the music. Tina Turner's financial journey mirrored her personal one, marked by resilience, reinvention, and remarkable success. At the time of her passing in 2023, her net worth was estimated at approximately $250 million. A significant portion of her wealth stemmed from her groundbreaking 1984 album, Private Dancer, which sold over 20 million copies worldwide and earned her 3 Grammy Awards. This album not only revitalized her career, but also established her as a solo superstar. In 2021, Turner made a strategic move by selling her music catalog to BMG for a reported $50 million. This deal included her recordings, writings, and rights to her name and likeness. The sale ensured that her legacy would be managed by trusted entities, aligning with her desire to protect her life's work. Beyond music, Tina's financial acumen extended to real estate. She and her husband, Erwin Bach, invested in properties in Switzerland and France, including a $76 million estate on Lake Zurich. These investments not only provided luxurious living spaces, but also contributed to her substantial net worth. Yet while her financial achievements were impressive, they were just one facet of her multifaceted life. Her real estate ventures, in particular, offer a glimpse into the serene and opulent world she built away from the spotlight. The homes that held her heart. Tina Turner's homes were more than luxury. They were symbols of liberation, love, and a life carefully rebuilt on her own terms. After years of instability and control, her real estate choices reflected not just wealth, but intention. Her most famous sanctuary was Château Algonquin, a stately lakefront estate in Küsnacht, Switzerland, where she lived peacefully from 1998 until her passing in 2023. For years, she rented the property due to Swiss ownership laws, but after becoming a Swiss citizen in 2013, a move that also had major tax benefits, she was finally able to buy. And buy she did. In 2021, she and her husband, Erwin Bach, purchased a sprawling $76 million estate on Lake Zurich. Spanning 5.5 acres with 10 buildings, a private pond, and a boat dock, this estate wasn't just a weekend escape, it was a fortress of tranquility. It reflected Tina's love for nature, privacy, and elegant design, with antique pieces she'd collected over the years and never hesitated to buy, even if she didn't know where they'd go. "Eventually, I'll find a place for it," she'd say with a smile. She also had a stunning villa in Villefranche-sur-Mer, France, Villa Anna Fleur, where she said her idea of the perfect vacation was reading on the terrace while Erwin cooked dinner. It was a quiet luxury steeped in intention. She once lived in Notting Hill, London, and Cologne, Germany during her transition years, but it was in Switzerland and France where she finally felt at home, safe and free. Yet while her homes offered stillness, Tina never lost her taste for power and motion, which she expressed in a much louder way, through her legendary collection of vehicles. The Engines of Freedom. Tina Turner didn't just sing about rolling, she lived it. And when it came to vehicles, her collection mirrored her personal transformation. Bold, expressive, and full of unexpected twists. It all started with a white Jaguar XJ6, gifted to her by none other than Sammy Davis Jr. after they performed together in Las Vegas. As mentioned earlier, it was a moment of pure awe for Tina, a surprise symbol of recognition and glamour that stayed with her for decades. That Jaguar wasn't just a car, it was validation. Ike once gave her a silver Jaguar XJ6 Roadster, but that memory came laced with complications. Driving down Wilshire Boulevard in it may have felt thrilling, but the emotions under the surface were far more complex. Later, in the 80s, after reclaiming her career, Tina treated herself to a Mercedes G-Wagon, her own choice this time, marking the beginning of her new chapter. She even commissioned a rare Jaguar XJ6 Lynx Eventer, a custom shooting brake model built for collectors. Funny enough, she never picked it up, possibly too busy launching her record-breaking European tour. Then came the Lamborghini LM002, V12 engine beast of a machine. But here's the kicker. Tina had the engine swapped out for a Mercedes V8 just so it could be automatic. All that horsepower, and she just wanted it to be easier to drive. Of course, the Queen of Rock didn't stop at four wheels. She had a Harley-Davidson Electra Glide, which she proudly showed off in her "What You Get Is What You See" music video. The leather, the power, the attitude, it was all Tina. The bike also appeared at the Monte Carlo Music Festival in 1993, a perfect blend of her rebellious spirit and stage persona. Private jets became essential during her global tours, especially during the whirlwind of press following her Bond theme, GoldenEye. She flew from London to Paris for interviews, barely touching the ground between performances. Her life was movement, on stage, in air, always in motion. And when she needed stillness, that came by sea. Tina was occasionally spotted aboard luxury yachts like the Lady Marina in Croatia. They weren't just toys, they were sanctuaries, peaceful, private, and far from the crowds. No helicopters were ever confirmed in her collection, but for someone who had already soared above the odds, it wouldn't have been surprising. Nevertheless, Tina Turner's story didn't stop when the engines cooled or the spotlight dimmed, because even after her passing, her legacy is still very much in motion. The voice that echoes on. Though Tina Turner passed away in May 2023 at the age of 83, her voice, spirit, and story continue to reverberate. As teased in the intro, her legacy is far from quiet. A previously unreleased track, Hot For You Baby, recently debuted in the 40th anniversary edition of Private Dancer, reigniting love for the album that redefined her career. Tina. The Tina Turner musical is still lighting up stages worldwide, from London's West End to international tours, drawing standing ovations from audiences who see their own struggles and strength reflected in hers. On social media, her official accounts continue to share powerful tributes and memories, connecting new generations to the Queen of Rock's journey. Even in her final interviews, Tina reflected not on fame, but on peace. "I had a terrible life," she once said, "but I kept going." And that is her legacy, not just music, but endurance, reinvention, and grace. She didn't just survive, she soared. Tina Turner's life was one of staggering transformation, raw, real, and unforgettable. What surprised you most about her journey? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our other deep dives into iconic lives. Because legends like Tina ? They're always worth remembering.